Yes, sir. We are here on the Hockey Happy Hour, and as you can tell from that little intro, this is all about not just the Flyers, of course, but it is about the Flyers mostly. We are here at the Hockey Happy Hour. I am Matt Sinsuti, along with Rob the Pove Povia right here. And, well, Rob, we are 2 days into the playoffs. We got a lot to talk about. But Flyers got off to a bit of a rocky start, to say the least.
We sure do, and they sure did.
I mean, it was a shame to see it happen yesterday, but it was a very odd game. It was very competitive until the third period, and that's when everything just went to hell in a handbasket real fast.
All right. Well, besides all that, how was your week, man?
Everything was pretty good so far. Preparing myself for the playoffs. Getting excited, getting pumped up, getting in the mindset and the psyche.
Yeah,
and
good time of year.
Yeah, that time of year where you get focused and you get ready to pull all-nighters, which I always do anyway. But because you know that a lot of these games might just very well go to the OT. We've already seen it at least 4 times in the postseason, and it's only been game 1 so far.
Yeah. But not even in the third day of games yet. An immense amount of overtime thrillers. None more so as thrilling as the Chicago Blackhawks game, St. Louis Blues game last night.
No, man, that one was crazy. I remember just watching it. 3 OTs it took for this game to end. Unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. So everything's good in Matt's world this week? Everything going swell?
Yeah, how's everything going on in the Pove world?
Oh, man, it's been thank you for asking. It's been an awesome week. I got health insurance this week.
Yeah.
It's been a long endeavor, but I'm good. So now I can, I got to take care of myself. Really, hearing that Rocky theme music makes me think I got to get this fat ass running up some steps or something like that. Keep in shape.
You want to go take a little trip down to the Art Institute over in Philly and just start running up and down a little bit.
No doubt.
No doubt. All right. Well, it's been so far. It's been day 1. Well, actually, day 2. And we're at the end of a couple of days of playoff action. And, well, let's get into it. The first game we're going to analyze a little bit. Let's start off with Dallas and Anaheim. Now, I don't know. Did you catch that game?
I caught a good amount of it, yeah.
Well, what would you take out of that? Do you think Dallas is off to – what do you think Dallas did? Because they obviously didn't look too hot going into the game. I mean, Anaheim was waltzing all over them in the first period. And then as the game slowly progressed, Lindy Ruff's style started to take over. Dallas started to get their feet under them, and they started tying games up and really starting to look like, okay, we can compete with Anaheim. What do you take out of that game?
Well, you're exactly astute with your observation there. Dallas came out flat in their first playoff game in quite some time. Going into a pretty raucous building out there in Anaheim, it was pretty intimidating. Certainly, got to be the loudest crowd yet of all the games that I've watched, and it's not a surprise that Anaheim went to a quick 4-0 lead before you blinked your eye.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough first period for Dallas, and you just look at that and you're just thinking, wow. They really didn't match up well against Anaheim, or at least that's what you would think.
Right.
But then as time went along, because it surprised me, I thought, really, they're not doing too well. This is strange, because if anything, Dallas has been a tenacious dog that just sinks their teeth in and they just keep holding on, man.
But once they got into the game, you saw that tenacious dog come through, inspired by Lindy Ruff, as you mentioned. I attribute it mostly to that dogfight that they had, but I think Anaheim let their foot off the gas a little bit. They're like, all right, we got this game 1. They started coasting a little bit. The only player that didn't coast was young rookie goaltender Freddie Anderson.
Yeah.
Which was a big surprise that they rolled with him over Jonas Hiller for this first round of the playoffs.
I think the only reason they did was because Jonas Hiller didn't match up well against Dallas. And Dallas's season series with Anaheim was a little bit more favorable towards them a little bit. And I think that was attributed to Hiller not playing well against Dallas, and I think they felt more comfortable going with the rookie, really. And Anderson is a rookie because I've never seen him before. So, I mean, and Victor Foss leaving at the trade deadline, it makes you wonder, boy, what happens if Hiller isn't able to step up? All right, then, I could safely say maybe I've been corrected. Maybe Anderson might be their future. Either way, he proved a lot against Dallas. He was really solid in net. They didn't seem to struggle in that department. So, give them where credit is due. I think Anaheim might have a pretty darn good goaltender right there in Freddie Anderson.
They certainly do. They have lots of options between the three of them. There's another goaltender as well. His name's fleeting my mind right now, but he's also another option. Do you think Boudreau's going to continue going off matchups throughout the playoffs, or
That is a good question. I mean, Bruce Boudreau in the past has not had many goalies to choose from because of the simple fact of being in Washington. He's only had his starting goaltender, and then the backup has usually been lackluster. And when you would see Washington get into the playoffs, they would have guys like Theodore or guys like one year they had Vakoun. Another year they had, well, now they have Holtby. But beforehand they had Cristobal Huet and such like that. And these goaltenders were good, but the same problem happened to them that would happen to the Flyers. The goaltenders were not what we thought they were going to be, and it turns out they're not as solid in net as we'd hoped them to be. You know, the same thing happened in Philly with Biron, same thing happened with Boucher and Leighton, and the list goes on and on for them. So you get both. I think Boudreau is now probably might give that a shot simply because the option's there. And because he's got the flexibility to do it where he didn't have it in Washington before. So maybe new avenue.
And still has that flexibility now with the other goaltender. I couldn't place his name, is a fellow rookie with Anderson, John Gibson, who's a little less proven than Anderson. Anderson had a few game starts towards the end of the season and really proved his worth.
Which I believe John Gibson is on that World Junior USA team that won the gold medal, I believe.
Yeah, a lot of talent there then.
So I think they definitely got a good choice of goaltenders from there in Anaheim. So obviously I was wrong thinking that getting rid of Victor Foss was a bad idea. Maybe it was a good idea, really, to make some space for both Anderson and Gibson.
Right.
So who knows?
That might have been the mindset, looking like that way.
All right, then. So we now move forward after that one. So in hindsight, being 2020, Anaheim does get the win. They barely get the win, really. Mm-hmm. Anaheim made a big mistake, and they took their foot off the gas, which understandably so. When you're beating a team pretty badly like they were, I mean, 3-0, you walk into the second period, you're thinking to yourself, oh, okay, we got this. And then they went up 4-0 in the second, and you're thinking, oh, okay, we got nothing to worry about. All of a sudden, boom, boom, it's a game. It's 4-2. And you're like, where did that come from?
Right.
You know, so
another concern Anaheim's going to have too is the state of their captain, Ryan Getzlaf. He took a nasty slap shot from Tyler Seguin to the face with 16 seconds left to go in that game. You know, Boudreau said, I think he's going to be okay, but he's probably going to have a little nasty cut on the side of his mouth. And as far as I know, nothing else is there, but I'll know more tomorrow. And at this point, he should be good to go for Game 2 tonight. They're playing tonight, correct?
Yeah, he is expected to play in Game 2 tonight. They showed his X-rays turned out to be negative for any deep injuries to his face or any lacerations. So luckily, he might be ready to go on that. You know,
cool. Well, I gotta keep my our MVP that we elected. You know,
yeah, we got to keep the MVP rolling, man. With Hockey Happy Hour, the gods named him, so we got to keep this going. You know. All right, so after that one, we have a 1-0 Anaheim lead, but obviously Anaheim not out of the woods. This is actually going to turn out to probably be a series like both of us thought. It was going to probably end up in, I think I had it ending in 6. Did you say 7? I think you had that.
I'll tell you in one shake or 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Is that the saying from Pulp Fiction?
That is perfect with that.
I have Anaheim winning in 5.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Right.
I mean, hindsight being a little 2020 now after Game 1, maybe I wish I picked it at least one more game.
Who knows? Maybe Lindy Ruff's team fizzles out. I mean, if not that it's the same team, but with the Sabres, we would see that happen a lot where the Sabres look strong and then they would fizzle out pretty quickly. The Flyers know that from firsthand experience. They've extinguished the Sabres at least 4 times. Sabres have done it to them. So, and it might be one of those times.
Dallas isn't a deep team, so it proves that your theory was correct.
Yeah, they depend heavily on Ray Whitney. They depend a lot on Tyler Seguin. If those guys aren't up to bat, or Jamie Benn for that matter, if they're not up to bat, they're in trouble. And if Letton's not stopping everything coming down the pike, Dallas is in a lot of trouble real fast. All right, so we go from one game to the next. And, all right, let's just get this out of the way. We got to get to this game now. Let's get to the Flyers and the Rangers. Game 1. We wanted to start off easy, but now it's time to cut this knife in a little bit. I know it hurts. It hurts us, but we can't avoid it. We got to talk.
Rangers fans are on cloud nine right now to take game one. And game one's an important game to take. They showed the stats during the game. I believe the Rangers are somewhere in the 70 to 80 percentile of winning series when they win game one, and Flyers even more so. I think they had not like 9 more wins than losses by winning game one. So game one's huge. Not end of the world, but it's going to be an interesting series to see how it plays out. What's going to be key is, do the Flyers get Steve Mason back in net or not for game two?
That's the main key right now, because Emery coming in net, and obviously a lot of people were doubting Emery, and when he waltzed on into there, and I'll admit it, I was a little scared with Emery. I'll admit, I didn't think it was going to go well.
I thought you were giving him more credit than that.
I was giving him a little bit of credit, but I was concerned. I'm not going to lie to everybody and say, oh, yeah, I thought we were going to be all right with Emery. I was concerned.
Yeah, that's right.
Completely.
You did text me we're in trouble, bro.
Yeah, I was concerned that Emery was going to be iffy, because his last performance against the Rangers during the regular season, albeit the Flyers played like crap, but it was very lackluster from Emery's perspective. Maybe it was because Emery feels like that the team wasn't playing well around him. It was a different story last night. Last night the Flyers were playing as best as they could. I'll give it to them. They put their asses out on the line on that ice. They did everything they could to try and win game one, and I can't take that away from them. They gave it their whole heart effort. And the same thing with Emery. He did everything he could to stop every shot coming down the pike. But then the Flyers went and shot themselves in the foot by taking a bad penalty late in the third, and that was it. That was all she wrote. The Rangers scored 2 goals, and then after that, they added another garbage goal, and next thing you know, we're down 4-1. It was late in the third anyway. At this point, it was just taking liberties.
I'm not surprised it went down like that. We got the curse of death with getting the first goal. Typically, getting the first goal in a hockey game is good, but I'm not sure about these Philadelphia Flyers.
Well, especially in the Madison Square Garden, it's been a kiss of death, period.
Now, I know that young rookie Atkinson got a lot of flack for that double minor high sticking, and I mean, how could he not? They obviously got those 2 quick goals on the double minor, and I don't place the blame fully on him. I question where was the Flyers showing up in the first 2 periods? Now, they're matching the defensive tenacity of the Rangers, but they were still allowing too many shots in on Emery, and it got to a point where they placed themselves in a 1-1 tie and having the fight tooth and nail, and that's when Atkinson came in. He tried to take the body, got the stick up high. He's trying to make it, he's a little excited, first playoff game.
But I want to say here, I'm going to rip the refs, though. There was no cuts. There was no blood. Why in the hell was he given 4 minutes? I really want to know. What was the ref's mindset? Was the ref really on the take for New York? Because there was no reason he should have gotten 4 minutes. He should have just been given a normal minor like everybody else is assessed. I understand it's a Flyers-Rangers game. The ante is going to be up. They're going to hate each other. They're going to want to rip each other's throats out. But let's be honest here. If there's no cuts, there's no lacerations, there is no injury whatsoever, and there wasn't on this play, he should not have been assessed 4 minutes. I don't care what the rule is. That is not a 4-minute penalty. Just saying. But besides ripping the refs, I'm not going to totally make up an excuse for that, though. I want to rip the Flyers a little bit here. It's not Atkinson's fault for taking this penalty. I'll admit, when I first saw it, I hurled all kinds of shit at Atkinson because I was angry. But then as I calmed down and I assessed the game, I realized, you know what? It's really the Flyers' fault.
Yeah.
They didn't kill the penalty off.
Quick thought on Hagelin taking that high stick. Maybe he pulled an old wrestling move, had a little razor blade in his glove, and gave a little slice so he showed little droplets of blood, and that's all the refs need to see anymore.
Maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't set it past the Rangers.
I didn't see it right off the bat either, man.
I didn't either. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up that point because I kind of forgot about that.
I was thinking, why the hell is he giving him 4? If Hagelin's not bleeding and he's not injured, and he came back out and scored a goal there that night, and I didn't see no blood on him then. What the hell? Why were we assessed 4 minutes? There makes no sense, you stupid fucking refs. But anyway, back onto this. I really blame the Flyers on this, and I don't blame Atkinson, and I don't blame Emery. They're the 2 exceptions to this rule.
Yeah.
The penalty killing for the Flyers did a great job all night. What happened in this 4 minutes? Just because you were assessed a bullshit 4 minutes does not mean that gives you the right to break down.
Well, in their defense, there was a lot of bad bounces. They got some juicy rebounds. It's hard to defend. But that being said, it's another example of something I've been saying all year round. this team does not do well against adversity.
It doesn't.
And I hate to say it, but it stems from their captain, Claude Giroux. He, again, in another game in Madison Square Garden, was completely absent. And when he's absent, it's like the whole team is absent.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. McDonald's the only one who got the goal for the Rangers. Scott Hartnell set it up. So, I mean, obviously Hartnell stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, he took a nice shoulder in on McDonough to get that pass across, which ideally the Flyers should be targeting that sore shoulder. Hey, I didn't say it, but the analysis said
and the
it.
Rangers will target Mason if he comes back. So, you know what? We might as well target McDonough.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. All spare love and war. And quite frankly.
On the
go on.
I was just saying, on the Rangers side of the puck, Matt Zuccarello had a fantastic game. I mean, capped off by that first goal that he got, just driving the net, getting his own rebound, just not quitting on the play. That is a player that, you know, for love of rivalry, he's impressive.
He is, and he's a rookie, really. You know, I mean, he's just come out of nowhere. You know, he's like a Norwegian, Flash. Rolling out of nowhere. I mean it. Like, he's scoring every time that the Flyers face him. Yeah. And the strange thing by their absence, might I note this, all the goals were given to guys like Zuccarello, Hagelin. Guess who's not on this scoring sheet? Brad Richards, Rick Nash, Martin St. Louis. Now, St. Louis and Nash got assists.
No. Richards got a goal.
Oh, Richards got a goal.
Yeah.
But Nash and St. Louis.
That's the key point.
They are absent at this. So, I wonder, what is going on with those guys? If the Flyers were doing so bad and there were 35 shots on net, Emery did a great job in everything, but where is your stars scoring? They're still missing. Now, again, this is another one where I'm nitpicking at the Rangers, but let's be honest here. You pay them a lot of money. You traded for St. Louis. You traded your captain, who was doing nothing, for St. Louis, who's now doing nothing. And now you've got Rick Nash, who still isn't scoring. I ask you, Rangers fans, what was the point of having them on your team if they're just there to be a number and a jersey?
They're decoys. Decoys!
They must be, because quite frankly, everybody but them scores. I'm just saying. I mean, I know I'm nitpicking because they won, but I'm just saying, come on now.
Well, they did have both had 2 assists apiece, and Richards had a goal and an assist, so there was some chiming in there, but are they paid to assist or are they paid to score goals?
They're paid to score goals, I mean, St. Louis not as much, but Nash has no excuse. He's supposed to be lighting the lamp up every night.
And he had a few opportunities in that game and just hit the center of the Flyers emblem every time.
And that's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad for him. He should be the one hitting top shelf. And there you go.
Right.
So, oh well. But either way, Henrik Lundqvist, of course, he had an odd night. I mean, he only faced 15 shots and he still let in a goal. So, I'm just saying, as much as the Rangers should be proud of this victory, they shouldn't be. Because you know what? They outplayed the Flyers.
Yeah.
They outclassed the Flyers. But you didn't have the game till the third period. That's bad on your part.
On a BS penalty.
On a BS penalty.
I mean, it was a blatant high stick, but
it was
4 minutes.
Bullshit 4 minutes. Should have just been 2.
Right.
But you get the point. The point is the Rangers didn't manage to score 3 of their 4 goals until the late third period when that penalty was given.
Right.
So I say this to the Rangers. I call bullshit on you guys being better than the Flyers. Because quite frankly, that doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't impress me one damn bit. You guys took forever to find the net. You guys only scored once on 35 shots against Emery. We scored once on 15 on Lundqvist.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot.
And getting back to Lundqvist, he, only let in 1 goal, but he just did not look comfortable all night. And if you're not comfortable at home, where the hell are you comfortable?
I mean, again, I'm not taking away this win, but I'm just saying for the Rangers fans out there, here's a little food for thought. Your guys took forever to really pounce on the Flyers. Didn't matter how many times you got put shots down on net. And yes, Emery did a great job, but here's the thing. You guys still weren't able to score. You guys were not able to score to the late third period and on a bullshit penalty. So if I were you guys, be happy, but I'd still be a little worried. I wouldn't take my foot off the gas anytime soon because the Flyers had you guys matched for that entire game.
Which is exactly what they might do, being that there's, 2 days in between games. They're going to, sit back. I think you were saying this pre-show.
Yeah, they might take their foot off the gas, and they might let the idea of, okay, we're back at home. They lost 9 straight. We'll get them again, and we'll take a 2-0 lead with us to Philly. And then we'll just have to try and take 1 there. That's probably what their mindset's thinking right now. Now, this might be a moment where it comes and backfires on the Rangers, where they start thinking, okay, we got them. And they don't necessarily focus on their negatives. The Flyers are guilty of this as well. When everybody's doing good, nobody's focusing on the negatives. Nobody's saying, oh, well, they let this happen too much, they let that happen too much. The Flyers, when they were playing well, they kept getting too many penalties. Did that come back to haunt them? No, but it did eventually. Point is that, guess what? Everybody decides not to focus on the negatives when everybody's doing well. The Rangers might just do the same thing and forget completely that, oh, well, even though we might have won that game, they had us matched for that entire game. Doesn't matter if we had 35 shots.
Yeah, no, there is no doubt about it. I mean, the Flyers' game plan coming in this game was to out-forecheck them. Now, where was that at? That didn't show up.
That didn't show up
and
at
that
all.
needs to show up if you're wearing a Philadelphia Flyers sweater in Game 2. You need to outwork them on the boards, or else, you know what? The Flyers are not going to get off as easy as they did in Game 1.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, they matched the Rangers, but they matched them defensively. They didn't match them offensively.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
And again, this is sad because you're thinking our defense was my main concern rolling into this. Now my main concern is our offense. This should not be the case. If anything, I should still be worrying about the defense, not the offense. We should have that down pat by now.
Most balanced scoring in the NHL, 7 players over 20. I only thought it was going to be 6 midseason. Wound up being 7 goals, 7 players over 20 goals. It doesn't show up against the Rangers for some reason.
It doesn't. And you know what? The weird thing is it shows up against the Rangers in Philly. It doesn't show up against the Rangers in New York.
Yeah, true.
Now, albeit, I'm not. It's strange because it seems like it's going to be a home advantage series, which helps the Rangers. It doesn't help us. That's the scary part because that's the feel of this playoff. The home team has the advantage because most of the home teams, with the exception of Tampa, and we'll get into that in a minute, lost. Basically, they won.
Right.
Their home game. They won their first game, and albeit it's Game 1, but they're still home. They still took advantage of their home ice. Tampa has a legitimate reason for why they lost their first game. Everybody else had really good reasons for why they won their first game. So you get the point. The point is it's been a home advantage playoff so far.
Yeah.
Now, again, Boston and Detroit start tonight, so we don't know if that's 100% the feel because Boston's still got to try and win their first home game against the Red Wings. Easier said than done. But you get the point. The point is that feel seems like it's going to be a home advantage playoff. It's not necessarily going to be where the road team or the lower seeded team has the advantage whatsoever.
Especially when they need that push in the last minute of the game, the crowd getting live, getting loud. And you notice in the Flyers-Rangers game, the crowd was very silent up until they went up 3-1. Did you notice that?
That's because the Rangers fans are frauds. So that's why.
Don't alienate our Ranger fans that listen to the
We
show.
don't have no Rangers fans listening to a Flyer show. Let's be honest here.
Probably not.
Come on
No,
now.
Randall maybe.
Oh, Randall knows. Randall might be one of the few legitimate Rangers fans out there, and I'll give him his due. He's a legitimate Rangers fan.
True that.
But I don't think there's too many legitimate Rangers fans, or at least that live in the city. I think half of them live in North Jersey, to be completely honest with you.
Right.
I mean, you lived up in North Jersey for a little while. Don't you believe that a little bit? Yeah,
I immensely
come on.
believe it.
Yeah.
I was a stranger in a strange land between Devils fans and Rangers fans. Back during that time period when I lived up there, I got to admit, Devils fans were the most fair weather fans. You'd never see them come out until it was playoff time.
Yeah.
And nowadays, a lot more diehard. I will give credit where credit's due.
That's because they have 3 Stanley Cups, and it's finally starting to show. It's starting to pay off for them. And then also that appearance in the 2012 Stanley Cup Final has added to the Devils' persona. They've now finally cut out a loyal fan base. Took them forever, but they did it.
Well, a good buddy of mine, Tom Connolly, is a huge Devils fan, and he doesn't let me forget the past. He doesn't even let me forget the present. He came over to watch the Flyers-Rangers game, and you think maybe he'd want to help root on the Flyers against Rangers, a little more rivalry between that. No, every goal the Rangers scored, he was in my face going, whoa, whoa. I wanted to slap the living crap out of him. But you know what?
Okay, I'm going to rip him for a second. It's like, what kind of fraud does this?
Yeah.
He comes to your house, and he's voting for his most hated rival. What the hell is wrong with you, bud?
He hates the Flyers more, apparently.
How? How do you hate the Flyers more when you're a Devils fan? Let me put a little history into your... You want to talk about the past? Let's talk about the past. The Devils beat the Flyers 3 straight times. Then the Flyers beat them twice. Then the Devils beat them again. Who's beaten the Devils more than any anybody else, the Rangers.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. Why are you rooting against the Flyers more? Did you get into a fight with a Flyers fan and get your ass kicked? Is that why you hate the Flyers fans so much? Let me explain this to you, bud. You are a fraud. You are a violation of your Devils fanhood because you're rooting for the Rangers. I don't give a crap what team they're facing. You're supposed to hate the Rangers the most. I don't want to hear it. No excuses.
Nice.
That's my final word on judgment there.
Love you, Tommy, but you deserve that B rating.
All right, we move on. And never met you. Love you too. But anyway, we move on. And so the Flyers taking the first loss to the Rangers. Tough one, but the Rangers should not rest on their laurels because they did not show any life until the very dead end of the third period. Doesn't matter how many shots they had.
Yeah.
The point is, when did they score? Late third period. They've got nothing to be proud of with the exception of the victory. That's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Flyers better step up, too, because they go down 0-2 going home, man. Oof.
And the Flyers, on the other hand, Giroux has to step up. He has to be the guy to score. If he doesn't score in Game 2, the Flyers are in deep shit. I mean it. They are in deep shit.
Correct.
That's just the way it is. All right, we move on. Okay, so we leave from that tough little mellow of sorrow and melancholy, and we move forward to our game tonight. Let's do a quick preview. Boston and Detroit, they start tonight, and Boston's going to be home. So far, it's been a home advantage playoff so far. Almost every team who has started at home has won their game. So what do you think? Do you think Boston gets themselves a big victory tonight against Detroit, or do you think Detroit upsets and negates the trend that's been developed so far in the playoffs?
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Detroit come off the gate hot, maybe even get like a lead 2-1, 3-1, then ultimately Bruins take it by the end of the game, really utilizing that home ice in Game 1. It's going to be tighter. This is the best possible matchup that could have worked out for Boston against Detroit because every team deserves to be challenged when it's the Stanley Cup playoff time, and Detroit matches up really well. They were at 3-0-1 during the regular season, so I definitely expect a tight game, but Boston wins it at home.
Yeah, all right. I'll give that credit to him. I mean, in all honesty, I think you're right. I think Detroit's going to start out really hot. But I think the fact of the lack of production that we've seen from the Detroit Red Wings, and that's mostly because of their injuries.
Yeah.
But again, I do believe Datsuk's still out, isn't he? For the Red Wings, or is it Zetterberg that's still out?
Zetterberg's still out.
Datsuk, and I think that's really going to be the big problem for them is their production's going to be down because he's not there. And the Red Wings are going to start out with a lot of fire and a lot of passion. They're going to try and intimidate the Bruins. It's going to be a failed effort because the Bruins don't get intimidated. They don't. But if Red Wings score first, it wouldn't shock me. But it wouldn't also shock me if Boston really after that just plays shutdown after that and just really take control of the game.
Well, Datsuk is missing Zetterberg. Constantly they set up each other on the ice. Now it's saying here that his back, Zetterberg, that is, started skating this week and is targeting the second round for a return to the lineup. If they get past, if they get past Boston, that could be something else. I don't think they are going to in the end, but. That is a little light at the end of the tunnel if Datsuk can, put this team on his shoulders and battle probably the toughest team in the NHL.
Well, this is going to show what Datsuk's going to be. Is Datsuk going to be a co-hero or is he going to be the hero for the Detroit Red Wings? Because that's what's going to be figured out through the end of this series. I mean, I'll give it. I'm not saying Datsuk ain't capable of it. But let's be honest here. You're going up against the best team in the East. You've had injuries. Your lack of production has shown. You barely made the playoffs. I mean, it's got to be noted that your season has not been one of great ones. And the Red Wings were starting to show this last year. I mean, the Western Conference, last year they barely made it as an 8th seed, I believe, or a 7th seed, something around that mark. But they barely made it into the playoffs, and they're barely able to make it back for their 23rd straight run into the playoffs. The Flyers had the second most. The Red Wings have the most. And it's strange that you think about it, that it's just like, how does this team still find a way to make it? Well, the obvious choice is because of a weak Eastern Conference that there has been, because Washington shot themselves in the foot. New Jersey still, their youth is still got to develop into something better. And again, Brodeur is probably going to test the market. They might try and see what they can get. They might try and re-sign Yager to help keep developing the young guys. But you get the point. The point is that the Eastern Conference is not what it used to be, so the Red Wings were able to kind of stick around in that wild card position and stay alive. But again, it's not something to really say that, oh yeah, they got a great shot against Detroit. Not saying that they don't, but their lack of production might just come out to haunt them at the end of the day, because if they score one time and Boston scores 3 or 4, you're in trouble.
Right.
Because you got no production.
Right. And ultimately it's going to lie in the hands of the goaltenders, as it always does in every playoff series. Now, if Jimmy Howard can match Tuukka Rask, which he does have the talent, it's all about, does he stay healthy? Does he develop that hot streak in time? Yeah, it could be a tight series, and I could see even Detroit pulling an upset. It's going to be a tall task for Jimmy Howard, because Tuukka Rask, arguably the best goaltender in the league this year.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, we look at this situation, and if Jimmy Howard steps up to the plate and Datsuk steps up to the plate, the Red Wings have a hell of a shot at trying to upset the Bruins.
Right.
But if Rask, Chara, and all the thousands of other great Bruins that are on this team, if they all show up, which they probably will, it'll be very hard for the Red Wings to try and stop them. And I'm not saying that the Red Wings can't. I'm not trying to piss off any Red Wings fans. I'm trying to piss off Rangers fans. I'm not trying to piss off the Red Wings fans. I just don't see the Red Wings doing this. It's such a huge mountain to climb. It's like climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It's hard to scale it. It very much is.
Hey, I mean, this will be tough, because Detroit's used to being on top, used to being on top of the standings. But in terms of the per se, I'm going to put air quotes here, moral victory, Detroit busted their ass to make the playoffs. And if they can make some noise in the first round, I predict Bruins take this series, but I really think Detroit's going to send it to 7 games. That's a huge accomplishment and something to build on for next year. So not exactly a loss for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, I have it ending in 6. I think that the Bruins will secure it a little bit early, and I think the only reason why is I think the Red Wings might show life in Detroit. I think it'll be very hard for them to show life in Boston. Because, I mean, Boston's a nightmare. You walk in there to the Bank North Garden, and you're just like, how am I supposed to win in this arena? It's a loud arena. The fans are there in droves. They're waving their rally towels. I mean, Boston is a hockey town.
We both said that they'll come out flying high. That crowd could kill that high.
Very fast. I mean, the only team I think that ever has fed off of the Boston crowd has been the Montreal Canadiens, in all honesty. I can't really think back to any team that feeds off of a Boston crowd better than the Canadiens. They always find a way to get under their skin when it comes to that.
Good call.
So, we have our early preview. Game 1, I have Boston winning this. You have Boston winning as well?
Yes, sir.
So, we've got my score. I'm going to say 4-1. I'm going to say Red Wings get the first goal, but I think after that the Bruins play shutdown, and they do it very well. So I think they'll just pack on goals just to keep themselves secure. What about you?
I think they go off to a 2-0 lead that they carry into the mid-second period, and then Boston puts the pedal to the metal, 4-2.
I like the optimism. That's a good one. Yeah, listen to Rob. Don't listen to me. I'm pessimistic.
Well, you're 4-1, 4-2.
Yeah.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah, all right. All right, so we move forward, and we go to our next little run-through, our next analysis. Let me see. Which one would I like to analyze next? Which one would we like to analyze here on the Hockey After? All right, let's analyze this one. Colorado and the Minnesota Wild. All right, well, the Avs and Minnesota battled back and forth. It was a pretty close game, to say the least, and goaltending was the name of the game early on between Semyon Varlamov versus Ilya Brizgalov.
Old friend Ilya.
Yeah, old friend Ilya with the whole universe so humongous big and afraid of bear, but bear in forest.
I'm trying to avoid the impersonations because, there's nobody in the NHL that I feel worse for than Ilya Brizgalov. And it was capped off by that last-second goal by Paul Stastny, I believe. Yeah, it was Paul Stastny. He had not only the game-tying goal, but also the game-winning goal in overtime. And the look on his face was just, oh, no, not again. And I just honestly, I shed a little single tear like the Chief Indian watching his grounds being desecrated. when is this guy ever going to have an ounce of good luck? Really, just a smidgen.
I like the Chief reference too. Hey, we all love you, Berube.
yeah.
But we with Minnesota and Colorado, it was crazy because you do see that where it went back and forth. And Brizgalov did have a good game. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He did have a solid game.
Yeah,
but
had him in position to win 4-2. He was outplaying Varlamov for a good chunk of the game,
and that says a lot because Varlamov being young and hungry, you would think that he would outlast Brizgalov, but no. The experience outlasts the youth on this particular occasion.
Yeah.
So, but in all honesty, though, as much as Briz tried, Colorado's comeback kid spirit, which they've had all year, they find a way to score, they find a way to win. And I blame Minnesota for allowing that to happen. Minnesota, it's not Brizgalov's fault that they lost this game. It's the Wild's fault that they lost this game.
You're absolutely right. He might have had flashbacks to his days in Philly, watching that defense just collapse around him, allowing Avalanche to just berate him with shots towards the end there.
Which, in all honesty, Brizgalov, there's a lot of reason for that, and that's why he's not in Philly anymore. Our defense, it showed that our defense sucked. And it was his second year that really showed that it wasn't Briz that was our necessary issue. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't trustworthy, but our defense was really showing that it sucked. But you're right with that. Minnesota's defense absolutely collapsed. They had no coverage whatsoever on anybody in Colorado. And then the Avalanche found a way where there's a will, there's a way. They tied the game. Late in the third, might I add. The last dying seconds of the third period were ticking off, might I add. Empty net and all, and Colorado with the extra man scores the all-important fourth goal to tie the game. And then the Briz of old, he was in perfect position, and he gave up a fluky goal.
Yeah. That's familiar. That I don't feel too bad for.
That was a pretty familiar sight. When I saw that happen, I was like, yep, that's the Brizgalov I remember. Oh, man. You do feel sorry for Briz, too, because that's kind of the image that will forever be portrayed for him in Philadelphia, is him giving up, fluky goals. I mean, Hextall did, too, but Hextall made up for it with beating the shit out of people. So,
that's true. You never got the best of Hexy, that's
never
for
did
sure.
Get the best of Hexy. You might have scored on him, but you paid for it, that's for sure.
In defense of Minnesota's defense, it really goes to show how deep this Avs team is.
Yeah.
Even minus one of their best players, Matt Duchene, who was out this first game and will be out the next game as well.
And we were concerned about that early because we thought with Duchene being out, we thought, ooh, that's a tough one for this team. I mean, it's not their captain, but he might as well be. You know, Duchene being out's tough. I mean, Stastny, besides Duchene, are the only two that were on that Avs team that were in the playoffs not all that long ago when they got eliminated by the San Jose Sharks. And they were the only two with real playoff experience. Right. Well, actually, I think O'Reilly, too. But that's it. Everybody else there was Milan Hajduk, Joe Sakic, and Foote, and they were all retired now.
Yes.
So you get
in
the
point.
Graveyard.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a sad term to use, but okay.
Well, in the metaphorical graveyard of the NHL. But in regards to Paul Stastny, he really stepped up and filled that void for Duchene, and it's no surprise he was a true hero. I gave him a little shout-out on Twitter. His Twitter handle is awesome. I think it's at Paulie Walnuts. Let me look at this up.
I love it, Paulie Walnuts. I love it.
It is. I'll tell you. Well, continue making your point.
But we do see Paul Stastny stepping up to the plate and being that man, and being the captain you have to. And one thing I could say that Paul did right was that he stepped up to the plate when asked.
At Paulie Walnuts 26. That's a great Twitter handle.
I want to know who's Paulie Walnuts 24, 25, 21. Who's all the other Paulie Walnuts? This is interesting.
It's his number.
I know. I'm just joking.
I know.
But either way, that should be a good restaurant that he could open when he retires. The Paulie Walnuts out in Denver. I'll go and eat there. I don't care.
You get Tony Sirica from The Sopranos to help market that.
Yeah, that'd be fine with me. Hell, I'd go out to Denver just to go eat there if there was the Paulie Walnuts.
Most definitely. But this was in all seriousness, this was Minnesota's chance to somehow take a hold of this series, and they blew it. Now that they lost game one, my optimism is shot in way down. I still think they're going to give him fits. The Wild is a persistent team, but I don't know. What do you see? How do you see this affecting the rest of the series?
Well, I do believe I had this ending in 5, and I think I had Colorado getting 3 straight wins and maybe a break in Minnesota where Minnesota gets the first win at home, or they get the first win in Minnesota and then Minnesota staves off elimination in a sweep, and then they get beat back in Colorado in the Pepsi Center. And the reason why I say that is because I think Minnesota, this is a debilitating loss to them. And also, let us not forget Brizgal's confidence, because let us remind you what another problem was in Philadelphia. His confidence was a big issue. When he took a bad loss, it went to his head real quickly. That's why we depended so heavily on Bobrovsky. That's why we depended on Boucher when he was his backup for a little while. It was not a safe bet when we had Brizgalov in net, because if he took a tough loss, and this will be a tough loss for Minnesota to swallow, it went to his head, and it got really persistent. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it very well could happen.
Right.
So, but then again, also Minnesota's game plan absolutely got shot to shit real fast.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what their game plan was. I think they were just getting lucky half the time with their goals. They were just outworking Colorado at first. I still don't know what their game plan was. I look around like, what are they trying to do?
Just show offensive forechecking presence, and then they rely on their strength, their defense.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's what let them down in this game.
It really did. And then at the same
So it's not a surprise you didn't know their strategy, because they didn't carry it out fully.
They didn't carry it out real well. Obviously, they lost.
For 2 periods.
Yeah, you could tell what Colorado's game plan was. You know, I mean, Colorado was trying to systematically intimidate the Minnesota Wild. They were checking hard. They were really going hard at them. They were really trying to grind them down. They kind of did, really. They grind down Minnesota at the fair end. So I could say Colorado acted their game plan out solidly. Minnesota, I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. Either way, nonetheless, that's the end of that. We get an OT thriller in Colorado. The Avs win game 1, 5-4, and it's a 1-0 lead for them in the series. Not a shocker, but it surprised me that it went to OT.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they will give them fits. I think it'll go 6 games. I think Minnesota's going to be able to ultimately pull at least one out in Colorado, whether that be game 2 or game 5, and then ultimately Colorado wins in Minnesota ice and really rubs it in and moves on triumphantly to the second round.
All right. Well, we move on now to the Montreal Tampa Bay series. Now, this series was another OT thriller, and this was a great game to watch. I was sitting back watching. I was thoroughly entertained by this game, because you talk about 2 dead even teams. I never thought I'd find 2 more even teams in the playoffs right now, because Montreal scored about, what was it, 15 or 19 seconds after Tampa Bay got the first goal. And then after that, Steven Stamkos, and this was a beauty.
Beautiful,
Stamkos,
19 seconds exactly.
Yeah, and then he went all the way down from one end of the ice, carried it into the offensive zone, blasted that sucker right past Price. Not a minute later, Montreal scored and tied it up. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? This is the most competitive game I've seen so far.
Yes.
It was crazy.
What a way to open up the Stanley Cup playoffs, no doubt. Honestly, that Stamkos goal, most impressive thing I've seen since Jágr in his younger years with Pittsburgh, going coast to coast like that.
Wait, didn't he do that against Chicago?
Jágr?
Yeah.
Oh, he did it against a lot of teams.
Yeah, he did it against a lot of people.
Probably Chicago. I think
probably
you'd be
Chicago
correct.
in the finals.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we have we just have Montreal and Tampa Bay. Man, they just went back and forth and back and forth. They were 2 pit bulls just trying to kill each other. And then it was. Then we saw 2-1, or I think it was a 4-2 lead for Tampa Bay, and we were all thinking, okay, Tampa's going to take charge. They'll hold on to a 2-goal lead, and then out of nowhere, boom, boom, Montreal tied it up. I'm like, what the hell just happened? It was just like, how did that happen?
There was just a barrage back and forth of goals in the third period there between Montreal and Tampa Bay, and then Montreal had the lead. And it took a late goal by Steven Stamkos again to tie it up. And I was like, what a shame. It would have been great to see Montreal win this one on the road. And
then OT played its evil little ugly hand. And out of all the teams to have home ice advantage, this being the one team that did not get it, Danny Briere, familiar name for us, Danny B, set up, I believe it was Weiss, to score the winning goal.
Who? You know what? It's just so great how you get such these meaningful goals from like third and fourth line guys that you may have not heard of or been familiar with, and they come out to be playoff
I don't even know their
heroes.
first name. That's how irrelevant he was.
Right. No, you're familiar with Dale Weiss. We on the show are familiar, but the layman out there I speak of.
Yeah, and Danny B, of course, we give a little shout out, a little love for Danny B, of course.
Mr. Playoff.
Yeah, Mr. Playoff, still showing his magic. Got the big old assist when it counted. And boy, did Montreal enjoy that goal. They earned that victory. That was not easy.
The only road one so far in this playoffs.
Yeah, the only road team to upset the home team. So maybe Detroit might have it in them tonight. Who knows? But still, if everything plays out, that will not happen. But but nonetheless, Montreal gets a big win on Tampa Bay. And what do you see? Do you see this being a debilitating loss to Tampa? I don't. But do you really see that as it?
I think this is going to be a game that really mimics the season series.
Okay.
Montreal wins one, Tampa Bay wins one. It just both these teams have great bounce back factors, indicative of their road to these playoffs. That's just going to continue in this playoff. It's no big surprise that these teams are matching up in round one.
I mean, this is a game that, quite frankly, it goes to show you that these are two even teams. Now, I didn't give Montreal a whole lot of credit beforehand, but obviously from what they showed, they had a lot of offensive prowess. They really showed a lot of tenacity. When they went down 1-0, it took them 19 seconds to tie it back up. Steven Stamkos, he carried it all the way down from end to end and scored, and that didn't faze them at all. They wound up tying the game, and Montreal eventually took the lead too. So it's just like, man, this is a team that's not backing down. So, and Price did a really good job. Limbach did a good job. Both of them really tried as hard as they could to keep their respective teams in the game on both ends of the ice. So, all credit given aside, Montreal did a great job. So did Tampa. Should be interesting to set up game 2, which I do believe is going to be happening tonight. So, for all those out there who want to catch a good hockey game, I do believe, yes, it will be tonight at 7 o'clock on CNBC. Montreal and Tampa, game numero 2.
Well, what's going to be a key thing for this series is how does Anders Limbach hold up in the absence of Ben Bishop? Because right now the Lightning, as of 23 hours ago, are saying will not be ready anytime soon. He started skating. He participated in practice skating, but there's no timetable for him coming back. So it's on the shoulders of Anders Limbach.
A lot of goalies getting hurt in this year's playoff rolling in. So very strange how that happens. Usually it's players. Usually it's forwards that get hurt before the playoffs. This time around it's different. It's goalies that are getting hurt.
A lot of just players going into that net hard and sometimes getting penalized for it, sometimes not. These referees are going too much to the discretion of he was pushed in. He was pushed in. You know what? These are professional hockey skaters. They can resist the push if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Come
on, man.
I earlier said the refs were protecting the goalies a little bit too much. Now I'm starting to see they're not.
Right.
And I'm thinking, did they listen to me actually?
Yeah.
But more importantly, here's a situation that I find that it's okay to protect the goalie a little bit, but you have to protect the goalie when it matters. And in key situations like that, when somebody's legitimately getting shoved into his goalie, or if somebody's really stepping up to the plate and trying to knock the goalie off, you've got to make that call.
Yeah.
You've got to. It just has to have, and then there should be a fine and a suspension for that.
They're such in a susceptible position that it's necessary. It's not like you're trying to really sugarcoat like a quarterback in football or the pitcher in baseball or even the catcher in baseball with the new rules that they have for blocking the plate. This is different. I mean, you guys have moving down the ice very fast. Got to look out for these guys in that, and it's showing up a little bit with these injuries. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think that the refs, they need to be more poignant to that. They need to be enforcing that rule a little bit more. Now, albeit, don't overprotect the goalie, and I might have run the goalies out a little bit over that. I might have run the refs out over a little bit over that, but I'm also going to state that there's a fine line between doing the right thing and overprotecting and not protecting at all. And quite frankly, if these goalies are getting hurt, they're not protecting them at all.
So you're saying just find the happy medium.
Find the happy medium because and that's what referees should be doing. But sadly, from any indication of any game whatsoever, it's clearly not happening,
We need Vince McMahon to go in there. You're fired.
Yeah. You're fired. But anyway, and the sweat drips off of his nose. But anyway, we move forward.
Yeah, what do you see? How do you see tonight? They're playing again tonight, game 2,
Yes,
correct?
they are.
Yeah. And like I said, I feel like it's going to go back and forth. I feel like this will be Tampa's game to win. How about you?
I feel like Tampa's going to get this win, too. I think that, Tampa's going to rebound and say, okay, we took game 1. It was a loss, but you know what? We can beat these guys.
Yeah.
There's nothing that they can take away from game 1 that all of a sudden would make you jump off a bridge and say Tampa's doomed. Not really. Tampa just as much of a chance to win that game as Montreal did, and it just fell in Montreal's favor.
Yeah.
So I think Tampa will take it and motivate it, and they'll probably get a good win tonight. They'll probably win it in regulation, I would have to think. Maybe not a shutout, but I think maybe a 3-2, 2-1 situation. I think it might be a 1-goal victory tonight. I think they'll tone down the goals tonight.
Yeah, it's bound to be a close game. All of their games have been separated by 1 goal, including this game 1. I just feel that both of these goaltenders, they may show up like you indicated by your score. I don't think so tonight. I think Tampa Bay is going to put up 6 goals against young Mr. Price there, and maybe win the game like 6-4, 6-5.
So you think Carey Price is going to have one of those? I don't know how to be a goalie moments that he's had in the past.
I mean. It may not be him screwing the pooch as much as just Tampa Bay, just an all-out assault,
Which is possible. Yeah. I mean, Tampa has that offense.
You want to go down 0-2 going into Montreal? I don't.
No, sir. I can understand exactly where you're coming from on that one, and the coach is probably going to be telling him that real fast.
Yeah. In either scenario, though, they put out that effort, just as we indicated. It could be in a 3-1 scenario. It could be in a 6-5 scenario. Only the hockey gods know.
Only the hockey gods know. Only fate will play its hand.
Yes.
All right. Well, we now go into this next game. Let's our old hated rivals from the west of Pennsylvania, the Pittsburgh Penguins, with their you-know-what captain, Sidney Crosby, going up against the Columbus Blue Jackets, the young and hungry Columbus Blue Jackets, with Bob in goal. And you go ahead.
I was going to say Bob.
Go ahead.
I love Bob. He did not play well this first game, though.
No, he had a rough game. Well, in all fairness, Pittsburgh had a rough game, too.
Yeah.
Because, in all fairness, Pittsburgh let Columbus get under their skin.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let Pittsburgh get off easy on this one.
I thought that was just a Flyers Penguins thing, but it's going to show that this team allows any team to get under their skin if they choose so to do.
I think it's because they're prima donnas, and I think that they honestly feel like they are above the Columbus Blue Jackets. Because let's be honest, Pittsburgh has that superiority complex when it comes to the Flyers.
Yeah.
They think they're above the Flyers, and the Flyers prove them wrong every time.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happens with the Rangers. They think they're better than the Rangers. The Rangers prove them wrong. Everybody proves them wrong because they have a superiority complex because they won 1 Stanley Cup. Like, oh, you won 1 cup. Big deal. Chicago's got 2.
Hooray.
Seriously, come on now. Let's move on. So Pittsburgh got a little frazzled early in that first period, and Columbus scored first. Not only did Columbus score first, then Pittsburgh tied it up, and then about a minute later they took a bad penalty, and Letestu scored for the Blue Jackets again, and they made it 2-1, and that was the way the period ended.
Right.
I was thinking, how in the hell did that happen? So obviously, I think they had a bit of superiority complex rolling into this game, and I think that they allowed that to write a check that their asses couldn't catch in the first period. Next thing you know, Columbus scores a couple of good goals, and Pittsburgh walks away down 2-1 in the first period.
Right. I mean, you're absolutely right. They've owned them this year during the regular season, and I feel that they think that it's not going to be any different here in the playoffs. But as you've stated on the show before, the playoffs are a whole different breed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly like I said, Bob had his shaky moments in game 1, but Pittsburgh didn't look good as well, like you said, and
neither did Fleury.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that guy. He gets in the playoffs and he just lets in so many soft goals.
And even the esteemed Pierre Maguire, he even pointed that out, that Fleury didn't look all that comfortable in net. And I'm thinking he really didn't. And I'm thinking, it's like, how are he's not comfortable in Console Energy Center. I don't know what it is, but he gets frazzled very easily when he's at home. And I thought it was just against the Flyers, but no. You were right when you pointed that out earlier. I thought it was just a Flyers thing, but no. It turns out it's a Columbus thing, too.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that this is starting to show that Pittsburgh's got a superiority problem. And I think that it's starting to really come back and bite them in the ass a little bit.
We've exposed their Achilles heel, and now any team that matches up again against the playoffs, okay, we just need to, rub their face, wash their face a couple times, get them off their game, and then we own them.
Because I think so. I think Columbus was throwing the body very hard, and Columbus was getting in their head. Their physical play reminded them of a so-called team from eastern Pennsylvania in a lot of retrospect. Not that Columbus isn't physical, because they are a physical team. I mean, the Flyers know that from firsthand.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, those were some bloody bloody duels there between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Blue Jackets. If those two wind up meeting in the playoffs, nobody's living through that playoff series, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it was physical, it was nasty, it was grinding out hockey right in front of their face, and in all honesty, I think it got under Pittsburgh's skin a little bit. And then in the second period, things looked to be the same, but then Pittsburgh settled down, they started playing their game, they went up and they took the lead. Or actually, no, they didn't take the lead, but it was tied at 3 by the end of the second period. And then going into the third, a bad goal given up by Bobrovsky, and the Penguins secured a victory 4-3. I mean, if I was Pittsburgh, I'd take this loss and I'd say I'd take this win, actually, and it should have been a loss. I took this win and I'd say that was absolutely atrocious and unacceptable in my book.
Right.
You got the win, but you can't be proud of that. I mean, let's be honest. The Rangers have something to be proud of against the Flyers. Penguins have nothing to be proud of against the Blue Jackets.
No, absolutely not. They have, since the Penguins won their cup, they have drastically underachieved year in and year out. And this could be a possibility where they're going in, okay, we have a 5-0 season series advantage over Columbus. We can, look past this round. And then all of a sudden, Columbus's special teams, and if Bob can, play at his level, could really steal this series if they don't wake up and play their high offensive game without getting sidetracked by the shenanigans.
I said a long time ago when I saw Columbus was rolling into this playoff, I sold it to our special guest Henry, who was in here, and I told this to you. It's one thing to be a well-experienced team that has had the cup and wants it more. It's another thing to have never had it and be young, hungry, vibrant, have plenty of years left in you, and are ready to put those playoff mileage on your body.
Right.
You are ready. You want this to happen, and I believe this Blue Jackets team was ready for this playoff game.
Yep.
Pittsburgh was not. They were not mentally prepared. They weren't ready at all, and I don't care what their excuse is. They should have been ready. They were at home. They played very well against the Islanders when this happened last year. What happened tonight? What happened 2 nights ago? You guys were really bad. Really, really bad. So
yeah. I mean, the one silver lining for Pittsburgh, they really finally got that secondary scoring and click. You didn't get any goals from Crosby and Malkin in this game, I don't believe.
You got it from Jokinen, Niskanen, and I believe
Brandon Sutter. Yeah, which they were waiting on him to kind of fill that third center iceman role, and he gets the game winner and first star because of it.
Yep, so Pittsburgh has some silver line to walk out of it, but this was an atrocious win. It's not something to be proud of. It's something to say we got lucky, because you certainly got lucky. You snagged a victory, literally stole it from Columbus, because Columbus was outplaying them that entire game.
Absolutely.
So, nonetheless, we move on forward, and Pittsburgh getting an early 1-0 undeserved lead in their series.
Yeah, when do they play again? They
play, I believe, tomorrow night. Yes, they do. They play on Saturday at 7 o'clock. Pittsburgh and Columbus, game numero dos.
So they got a day to think about it, day to get it in order, either side of the hockey puck in that game.
If I was Dan Belsma, I'd be drilling them real fast, because they need to play better than that.
Ew, not here. That attracts flies. Oh, drill them. Oh, got it.
I love it.
Little South Park thing there. Anyway.
All right, we move forward. Sorry. Also, a quick little heads up. R.J. Umberger, former Philadelphia Flyer, now Columbus Blue Jacket, is coming back for Game 2. And that might be a good boost for the Columbus Blue Jackets in a lot of respect because there's a veteran coming back to the team.
Plenty of playoff experience there between Philly and Columbus.
Between Philly and Columbus, because he was on that Columbus Blue Jackets team that was on that one year they made the playoffs and got swept by the Red Wings.
Yep.
So, very good stuff. All right, and now we move forward to our next game. This game happening out west. My boys out in the west, the San Jose Sharks, going up against the Los Angeles Kings. You talk about a strange game. Wow.
What? I mean, honestly, it was like feeding bait to sharks. Not to
pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended there. I mean, there were so many games going on at once, so I was focusing on the overtime game in St. Louis.
I was too.
The Minnesota game, and then all of a sudden I click over to the NHL Network. 5-0 San Jose. I'm like, holy cow! They just brought it. Like Jonathan Quick, what a lame duck he threw up.
I know, it was strange. I was just like, what is going on here? I was just looking back at the score the whole time, like, it's 4-0. 3-0, 5-0. What the hell is going on here? Like, seriously, it was crazy. And then eventually I think it got 6-0. Oh, no, it didn't get 6-0, but it was 5-0 going into the third. I'm thinking, how in the world did that happen? And how in the world did LA let that happen to them? Yeah. Because this is the Kings. Like, you guys won the Cup all of 2 years ago. You are the same team, right?
I think it was so the Sharks are more of a complete team this year. And that's why they were, always at the top of the standings, but really pushing it this year and really being led by Captain Joe Thornton, just really having that playoff experience on his shoulders.
And then eventually they wound up outlasting the Kings because they took the division this year. So I was, they have home ice for a reason. They have the Pacific Division Championship for a reason. Here we go. They're going to have another banner put up in the SAP Center this year no matter what. But San Jose going up against Los Angeles, I mean, San Jose systematically dissected the Kings in those first two periods, and LA didn't even put up a fight. They didn't even put out anything to match the Sharks. Nothing.
I was going to say, I thought the Ducks won the division, didn't they? Or was it San Jose?
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry.
It was close, though. I mean, they were going back and forth all the way up until the end.
The Ducks won it. I'm sorry. Don't listen to me. I'm a little drunk. Anyway, we move forward. Hockey Happy Hour, rewriting history, one episode at a time.
No, but I mean, the point is taken, though, is 2 versus 3 in the California division. Let's just call it the California division. Forget about Pacific Division there.
That's a good point because I think there's only one team in that whole division that is not from California.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And they just, from the get-go, just dominated this game. You got Pavelski, you got Joe Thornton scoring goals. Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton. Here was the real difference maker, and this is where you show the depth. And it was surprising that they named him for the playoffs. Rafi Torres. He played well, playing that Ronaldo's type wrecking ball.
And here's the thing. You would think out of all the people, Rafi Torres would be the last guy. For this is the same guy who's gotten suspended twice for very nasty illegal hits to the head. Last year, obviously the big highlight when he got Hossa really badly. It was suspended for, 25, 26 games the next season. It was just like, whoa. Yeah. Really.
He could be a dirty hitter because he has that energy, that wrecking ball energy like Ronaldo has, but you got to put a little bit of a leash on it, make smart hits, and that's what he was doing last night. He was making smart, clean hits, very powerful, really throwing the Kings off their game, and then even scored a goal. Man, he celebrated like a UFC fighter. He was like, it was like the greatest celebration of a goal. I did see that goal. I did see that one.
I mean, San Jose really just pounded down and grind down LA. LA started to show some life in the third, but I'll be honest with you, I think San Jose let them have that life in the third because by that point, you got to put yourself in the Sharks' skates. They had to be thinking, we're up 5-0. Can they really come back? Yeah. I mean, no, this is not a good thing because this is the Los Angeles Kings. They were comeback kids when they won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
Because they were 8th seed, and nobody thought in a billion years they were going to win the Cup. And then everybody who thought it had a weird feeling in the pit of the gut, maybe, just maybe. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, you're thinking to yourself, it's 5-0. How much do they really have in them? Quick's not even in goal. It's Jones who's in goal. And I'll give it to Jones. Jones stepped up to the plate and made some pretty good saves, when he stepped up to the plate in Quick's absence.
Held it at 5 for him.
Yeah, so I'll give Jones his credit. He stepped up to the plate and really delivered as much as he could. And, LA started to show a little bit, but LA kind of got a bit of fluky. They got a fluky goal on one end.
Yeah.
They got another goal that was really good. They got another goal from Jeff Carter that was pretty fluky. It was a deflection goal as well. So not something to write home about for Los Angeles, considering the fact that their offense is supposed to be better than that.
Right.
So I will say not good. And is Mike Richards injured?
No, I don't believe so. I could look that up for you.
Because he was absent through that entire game, might I add.
No, he played 12 minutes of total ice time, -1. No
that is
goals,
horrible.
no assists. Yeah.
That is horrible for Mike Richards. I mean, he did not play games like that in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't think Laviolette or John Stevens would have it if that was the case.
Well, it's what happens when they put Carter with Dustin Brown rather than Richards. Richards kind of gets this ambiguous role on the team. He needs his love mate.
He does need Jeff Carter. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Those two have been conjoined at the hip and the head since day one. I mean, Philly knew that very well.
It's a bromance, man.
Yeah, it's been a bromance. They were a bromance in Phantoms. They were the bromance in Philly. It's been a bromance through the Kings when they're a Stanley Cup year.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. They need each other because one is lost without the other. Yeah. Remind you of that song. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you never come around.
Turn around.
Nothing like that. You know what? Maybe we should just have a video like that one day where we just have Jeff Carter and Mike Richards on that. You know what? We might as well. We're not saying anything that ain't true. So... Anyway, we move on. And
pulling out the 80s music. I love it.
You got
love
to.
it.
You got to. It's just so fitting for those two,
Once it got down to or up to 5-3, then the Sharks were really like, whoa, we got a hockey game here. And they turned on the Jets and eventually got that empty netter to make, put the final nail in the coffin. But
yeah, I give Brett Burns credit, man. He launched that sucker down to that. Man, I've never seen an empty netter scored so fast in my life. That was crazy.
It was. There was a lot of pace on it, for certain. They had to make sure not to ice the puck, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Brett Burns was funny because he just came off the boards and he was like, bam, he just shot it and poof, it's like 5 seconds later it scored. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that was quick as hell. But anyway, so another thing, though, is Jonathan Quick has got to do better than that. That was absolutely atrocious by him. And that's going to show that are we starting to see a fizzle out here a little bit on this LA Kings team? I'm not saying that it's happening, but it might just happen where this team starts to burn out a little bit against the San Jose Sharks.
Could. They played a lot of hockey, not only this season with the Olympics, but in the past 2 seasons as well. Really, it's going to add up, and they basically have the same core.
Yeah, really they do. And San Jose wound up getting eliminated in the second round, so they were just probably a little bit more fresher going into this season than LA.
It's the same problem I see for the Blackhawks as well.
Yeah, the Blackhawks might fizzle out themselves, especially if they keep up any more of these games coming up.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into that right now, as a matter of fact. Nonetheless, the Sharks get a 6-3 victory, and but before we get into that, before we get into St. Louis and Chicago, do you see this being a debilitating, absolutely crushing loss to Los Angeles, or do you think they'll rebound from this?
I think it's pretty crushing.
Pretty crushing?
I mean, it's not the final crush. I mean, it's only game 1. They have a lot of series left, but, you lost on the road. As long as you take your home games, you'll be all right for the series. But it's the way that they got Quick.
Yeah.
Like, Quick is their bread and butter, and just to put up all those goals, I tell you what, unless Jonathan Quick puts up like a shutout in this next game or a 1-goal game, if he gives up a lot of goals again.
And you know what the scary part is? If it comes down to a goalies duel, obviously Niami's the one you want to put your money on, quite frankly, because Niami only gave up 3 goals, and all 3 of them, with the exception of 1, were flukes.
Right.
So,
right.
Like I said before, the Kings have nothing to be proud of for those 3 goals that they scored. They were all pretty bad.
It goes to show you who's playing hot right now, because if you told me what goaltender would you rather have, Quick or Niami, I'd pick Quick 8 days a week. But right now, who's playing better?
Niami.
And it's Niami.
Yeah. So we move on with that, and then, of course, we already know the backup for the Sharks, Stalick, is really good. So, we've got that. Obviously, from what we saw of Martin Jones, maybe they might go with him in Game 2, do you think? Do you think they take the reins from Quick? No, not a chance.
At least give him another game. I mean, he deserves that if nothing else. I mean, they may not even take the reins from him at all, win, lose, or draw. But I mean, they do have a talented backup to put in there. So
I mean, like I said, I don't think it could hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the shit kicked out of him. So at this point, I would have tried it.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, what do you do to build up morale?
It's not a half bad idea. You at least got to give Quick one more game.
Yeah, you know what? I do think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe. And this is just me. If I was coach, I would have done something to probably fool the Sharks, play a little psychological warfare. Would have put Jones in for game 2, and then at the Staples Center put Quick back in where he's home and he feels more safe. Maybe that might have worked. I mean, that's just me playing a little psychological warfare because I'm thinking, you know what? We just got our asses handed to us 6-3. It can't hurt now,
It could work out that way.
Yeah.
They don't play again till Sunday as well, much like the Flyers at 10 p.m. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of mind games and shenanigans are played in between now and then.
All right, so we now move forward to the most exciting game so far of the first round, and we saved the best for last because we love our fans. And it was the all-important Game 1 between the San Jose Sharks, the St. Louis Blues, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Old rivalry, returning to its bitterest form. And what can we say? They didn't disappoint. That is for sure.
Definitely the best game of the playoffs so far. It was just a nail-biter the whole game.
And I'll tell you right now, the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks, I knew rolling into this series, and you knew rolling into the series. Both of us knew. We were just like, this is going to be a series of epic proportions.
Yeah.
And Game 1 is a great indication of it. First period alone, 5 goals scored.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah. It was off to a furious pace, and kind of a little surprising to me. I mean, I won't lie. I actually reversed my decision in my playoff bracket on this, mostly based on the injuries that St. Louis was coming into this series with.
True.
Now, they did get Backus back for Game 1, which
is huge for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was thinking Blackhawks, with Taves and Kane and Sharp and Crawford and net, might be able to take advantage of a St. Louis team that lost their last 6 games of the regular season and was mad beat up and might sneak a quick sweep in.
With the same goalie in net because Miller was the guy in net for those games, not Elliott. So
Yeah, and I was like, maybe this is where Chicago could maybe Shanghai and make it to the next round and make some noise. But, man, the Blues had another plan. They definitely had another plan, and they followed through.
Did.
And with Tarasenko back, playing well and healthy, and Backus, TJ Oshie's still out, man, like I said, it was a furious pace getting set off 3-2.
It was, and then throughout the second, no goal scored. Third period, it was winding down. People were really worried that Chicago was going to snag Game 1. And then, I think it was it Krakow, who I think got that tying goal?
Jaden Schwartz.
Oh, it was Schwartz.
Who? Jaden
Schwartz. Unknown. And he, boom, put a puck right on through a backhander right under the 5 hole of Corey Crawford. And the rest, they say, is history. We go to OT.
Yeah.
You couldn't
With the goalie pulled, right? I believe it was that late in the game.
Yeah, I did they? They might have. I don't know. But I don't know. I really wasn't paying attention to see if there was an empty net. I was really just so focused on the game. I wasn't paying attention to any of the aesthetics.
Yeah, right.
You're just so intense. You're keeping your eye on the puck because you want to see what's going to happen next. It's one of those kind of games.
Indeed.
And, boy, what a goal, man. It was a great goal, too. Backhander right through the 5 hole. Crawford was already set in the butterfly, and it was perfect. And you couldn't have scripted this better. You really couldn't have. 3-2 at the end of 1, no goals in the second. Third period rolls around, underdog-like comeback, and they tie the game to force OT. Again, you can't script it any better than the way St. Louis tied that game up.
And St. Louis relied upon that deal with Buffalo to really, put a nail in Chicago's fast start. They were up 3-2. And then Miller, from that point on, really started coming in clutch, shutting them down. And the assist on that last goal comes from Derek Roy.
Yeah. Derek Roy got that last assist. And then I do believe Krakow got this one, if I do remember correctly. I think he got the no, it wasn't Krakow. It was was it? I don't remember.
Alexander Steen.
That was who. I was gonna say Steen, but I wasn't sure. Steen got the goal, and Steen, I'll tell you right now, man, thank God for him. You know, thank God for Steen, because he's that guy who I think is the hero this year for this St. Louis Blues team. TJ Oshie's the hero of the United States, but, you know, and he can have it. But the St. Louis Blues, it's been Alexander Steen who's really been the trendsetter for this Blues team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's been the workhorse for this team, like San Jose's Joe Pavelski and Philadelphia's Claude Giroux. He's been the workhorse for the St. Louis Blues, and this goes to show it. He scored the all-important goal in the third overtime. That's right, in the third overtime to finally beat Corey Crawford, get the goal, and win. And again, Miller deserves a lot of credit for that, because if it wasn't for Miller stepping up to the plate and really stopping everything coming down that path, and there were some good quality chances that Chicago had, it was unbelievable. What a game it was.
Very much so, until Steiner, broke the deadlock in the third overtime. Ironically, this was the St. Louis Blues' longest game in franchise history.
Yes, it was, and they showed that on NBC. They showed that on the Sports Network. They showed that the original overtime length, the original longest game in Blues history. I knew I was going to get the words right eventually. And
they come out.
Yeah.
You do an excellent job 95% of the time with your alliteration on the show, man. Don't give yourself a hard time if you stumble once or twice.
Oh, well, thank you.
You do, man.
Thank you. And
I'm kissing up to the boss. You know what I mean, guys? No.
I'm not the boss. We're co-bosses here. We're co-bosses here. You could fire me just as much as I could fire you. And now synchronized. You're fired. Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah, but anyway, we move on. Yeah. And now we rehire each other. So now we move forward. And to say the least, I think that the Blues really did a great job at securing this victory, doing a great job of just nailing it and shutting it down. Miller, of course, had the big play in that. And do you see this loss really getting into Chicago's head, or do you think Chicago's going to recover from this?
Yes, I do. I see it getting into their head. If they had won this game in regulation, it takes a stranglehold on the series. Now, St. Louis has all these doubts from the way they finished the regular season. We lost a game at home. Chicago's a great home team, talent, Stanley Cup champs. Had Chicago won this game, I say it was a sweep for Chicago. Now that the Blues won it, and they're going to stick in this series and eventually get healthier with Oshie back in the lineup, honestly, I think this can make the difference between who comes out of the series.
Well, you know the old saying, it only starts with one.
Yeah.
How'd the Flyers come back 3-0 on the Bruins? It only started with one OT win. And next thing you know, we moved on and won the series.
Indeed.
So, I mean, albeit, and it's one of those lengthy OT victories that really holds deep, and that the fans don't forget, you don't forget, and you carry that with you. And that will stick in Chicago's head, too, because think about it, with that 5 OT win that the Flyers got on Pittsburgh, once they won that game, you figured they got this series. It's all over. The Flyers are going to win it, and they did. So, I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh saw another victory that series. That the Flyers pretty much sealed the deal after that. So, I mean, not to say that Chicago won't see a victory, but I think that the Blues now, it's their series for the taking.
Yeah, it really is.
At this point.
It really is. It could go either way at this point, but it's in their heads, definitely.
Yeah. I think
you had an opportunity to win game one on the road, and you didn't pull it off. You didn't get the job done.
So now the Blues are setting the trend, and they're setting the pace from now on. Yeah. Doesn't matter if they're in the United Center or not. They're setting the pace. It's as simple as that.
Right.
All righty. So we are now going to take a break here on the Hockey Happy Hour. Quick little analysis of all the playoffs. And before we go to break, I do believe we have a quick shout-out to the NCAA Men's Division I champions, Union. Your boys, the Dutchmen, have sealed the deal and got their win.
As predicted by your co-host, Rob the Pove Povia, I had Union champ from the beginning. It was a long shot coming from the ECAC. Not a lot of, just to give you an idea, Minnesota on their team had 16 draftees for the NHL. Union won, of course, Paul Gostisbehere. Why do I always mess it up on the mic? I always say it right in real life, and then I mess it up on the mic. Paul Gostisbehere. There you go. See, we're messing up.
It's okay. You do a great job anyway, so you do a great job all the time.
We shouldn't have drank too many pregame beers. What are you gonna do? Yeah. But in any event, Union pulled it off on last Saturday at the Wells Fargo Center, beating Minnesota 7-4. Really, in a nutshell, man, Minnesota was stunned from the get-go with an all-out assault by a Union team after going up 1-0 early. Minnesota fought back, though, as the juggernauts that they are, and they fought back gallantly at that, crouching and scrawling, and the effort was out. Their effort was just outstanding, especially their goaltender, Jonathan Wilcox. Yeah, had 47 shots fired against them, 41 saves. In the end, it 47 shots, yeah.
Oh, my God.
For 41 saves. Amazing, right? And just to, kind of to our draftee's horn, Paul Gaspier, he was on the ice for all 7 goals for the Union Dutchman, and almost, I think about roughly around 30 minutes of ice time. Just an outstanding man. Really going to be a great two-way defenseman for the Flyers for years to come. Now, the Union Dutchmen now have won the ECAC regular season. They won their conference championship. They won the regional at Bridgeport, and now won the NCAA championship with constant pressure from the opening puck drop. And this is now their first national championship title in school history. They had been a winner in Division III before, but they've been a winner everywhere they've been. And now they are tops of the the Frozen Four, mountaintop. And Minnesota, who was going for their 6th championship, can rest their laurels that they have 5 in their pocket, last being in 2003. But either way you look at it, this was truly an upset. Except in my eyes, I had them picked from the get-go. But Minnesota, number 1 team, going back and forth with BC, and you see the Union Dutchmen from the ECAC beat both BC and Minnesota to win the championship. It was really outstanding, just a really great effort.
So congratulations to the Dutchmen, doing a great job. Not easy beating the number 1 ranked team in the whole country, Minnesota. They did a great job sealing the deal, getting what they got. I mean, you were the man, Rob. You picked them all the way, and they sure as hell won it, didn't they?
Yeah, between the both of us, we had this. We really did our work. We did our homework because you had 3 out of 4 for the Frozen Four. You were high on those Fighting Sioux, and they did provide merit, making it all the way to the semifinals against Minnesota. And yeah, between the two of us, yeah, we are your hockey one-stop shop, all source for all things hockey here on the Hockey Happy Hour.
Yeah, that is right. So now it is time for us to take a quick break. We got to go. I got to go to the bathroom. I don't know about you. But anyway.
Let's stretch the legs a little bit.
Yeah, stretch the legs a little, get the blood flowing because we still got another hour to go. So before we say goodbye for a quick sec, we're going to announce that we were followed on Twitter by a band by the name of Corvus, which they are from Arizona, the Arizona area, and they followed us on Twitter, and we would like to give them a quick little plug, and we're also going to play a quick song from them right here, right now. But before we do that, Rob, what is their Twitter handle?
Their Twitter handle is @CorvusAZ. That's @CORVUS, capital A, capital Z, assuming for Arizona, out in the Phoenix area. So definitely hit them up on Twitter. Definitely they got links to a lot of their songs there.
That AZ isn't just meant for the alphabet, A to Z?
Oh, hey, it could be.
No, I'm just joking.
That
was a joke.
I know it was a joke, but you know what? I'm laughing, and you know what? I'm also presumptuous a lot in life, so I like to take a step back and analyze that. Yeah.
All right. Then also Corvus is on Facebook. You can find them at the Corvus Band page. It's Corvus with a little TM at the top for the copyright, of course. And you can feel free to like them there. And the Hockey Happy Hour is going to do such before the day is out. So we want to thank you, Corvus, for liking us. If you are listening, thank you a lot. We appreciate the follow on Twitter. And feel free to like us on Facebook. We will like you as well. And follow you back on Twitter as well. I think we already have. And, yep, so that takes care of that. So here is a song from Corvus. It's called Pieces. So give it a listen. Keep an open mind to it. If you like it, be sure to check them out on Facebook and the Twitter. And this is off of their MySpace page, of course, at MySpace/Corvus/music/songs. So if you want to check out some of their music, that is really the only way you can. So head on out there. We are the Hockey Happy Hour. We're going to keep it with the hockey, and we're going to stay fresh a little bit here. So get those skates out. Keep them bladed up. Keep them sharp, because we'll be back for a second period when we come back. Here's Pieces by Corvus.